Well, hello and welcome to Empowering Differences. And we're going to have an amazing conversation about your age empowerment, hoping that you'll feel swell about your age empowerment. I'm your host, Ashley T. Brundage, and I'm excited to bring you on a journey as we go through and talk about all of the different age differences, but also how they impact us, how we can make bigger impacts through our partnerships, through our friendships, through our communication, through mentoring. I'm planning to share a little bit about the impacts from my research about empowerment. And I have some really amazing guests with me who I want to give the floor and so they can take a moment and introduce themselves because no one person can know everything there is to know about age empowerment. Because we all have what age demographic we are a part of. And I'm proud to be a Gen Xer and celebrate my Gen Xness as often as I can. And I think about my fun movies growing up, and I think about my remnants of the Karate Kid and all these different things that seem to be cycling themselves back around again. But really, we can't do this empowerment mission on our own. We have to surround ourselves with people who are different. And so I brought together some really cool friends of mine. We've had the chance of presenting together on a cruise ship at sea. We've had a chance of partnering on events on land in Bermuda and in New York together. And now we get a chance to partner, all three of us, virtually for the world, for you all to be a part of our discussion on age empowerment. So without further ado, let me kick it over, pass the baton over here to Keely first. Keely, how are you doing? What's going on?
I'm doing good. I'm so excited to be here. You two are like some of my favorite people. And I am representing Gen Z today. So let's just slay the day, okay? We're going to have some fun. I'm the founder of FeelSwell Experiences. We're a holistic leadership development company. And I can't wait to just dive into what we're doing, our approach, how we're really looking at Gen Z coming into the workforce. By 2030, they'll make up 30% of the workforce. And I'm really excited to share a little bit of a vulnerable part of my story too, where you're going to hear why I actually left corporate as a Gen Z employee. But I'm very excited to be here. I just adore these two. I love that we get to share our perspectives. We get to come together and really have this time because you're going to learn so much. And I know you're going to want a notebook, you're going to want a pen, and you're going to want to take notes because these are some gold nuggets we're going to drop today. I'm going to pass it down to Vicky.
All right. Hi, I'm Vicki Brown, and I'm the founder of VA Brown Consulting, which specializes in helping new managers, new supervisors get it right from the start. So I work a lot with the Keyleys and the Ashleys of the world, but I am a very proud and out boomer, and it's been a fun journey trying to understand how to interact and communicate with these two youngsters because a lot of times I don't get it. And it's the journey and the learning that makes it doable. So hopefully together we can all help this be a better world.
That's so true. Oh my gosh. Wow. So we have three different age demographics representing our conversation today. And Keely, you can also talk about your partner
Yes.
and how you all differ from different age demographics. And of course, I can talk about being a mom to some Gen Zers. This thought process of your age empowerment, and the reason I really wanted us to talk about age empowerment, was really because I did this global research study about empowerment of people, and what we found in the study was that so many people were talking about empowerment being something very emotionally charged. One of the things that we found out together, right, all on the ship when we were doing the voyage of empowerment last year, we found that we were able to really shift some people's empowering differences that they have as a human just by putting them in different spaces where they maybe hadn't ever been. Being in an environment where we were able to, get to know the crew members and get to know people who, were literally living on a ship, right? I mean, this was kind of some of the things that we experienced. We saw the differences in social economic class so easily, right? But age differences, we don't always, even though sometimes we may think we know how old someone is, it doesn't necessarily give us the insights into knowing what it's like for them to live in their world and how their world is different based on how old they are. This was kind of one of the things that I found in this space. So what I'm kind of, thinking is, and that maybe this will be really helpful, part of my research, centers around how we could actually drive empowerment faster for people based on this concept of age. And so one of the things that I found was really impactful is obviously we call them empowering actions, and each action is something that comes with an impact towards other people, right? So if someone wants to make an action, an empowering action, then that means that you have to be able to know how it's impacting the other person. And you have to be able to know how it's impacting them both on the emotional side and then on the numeric value impact side. What is it actually driving? Is it driving more time with them? Is it driving more money for them? Is it driving more economic impacts? Is it driving a promotion for them? And this is kind of why empowerment is so important into all of the differences. But specifically speaking to our research on age empowerment, we asked people what they did to drive empowerment for age differences. And one of the top things we heard was that mentoring was the top answer, right? It's like survey says, what is the top answer for age empowerment? And so we found it to be mentoring. And obviously mentoring is the action of a strategic partnership between people who have some differences, but also who could have similarities. And finding them out is how you do that in a mentoring partnership. So we always say mentoring should be a partnership. And obviously what I'll do is as we go through our discussion today, I'll be talking about some of the other top empowering actions and how they impact age differences. But mentor to me is the first one that definitely drives the impacts. Now, I know that we have a boatload of discussional items to talk about. But I really want to know a little bit more about trends in the workplace with Gen Z. So, Keely, do you want to talk a little bit about that for our listeners?
Absolutely. And I just wanted to touch on what you said real quick about mentorship. I mean, we can use a real life example of you and I. I've looked for your mentorship, and I feel like in mentorship, we've been able to do that together. And it's both sides, where you've supported me and helping me and giving me information that I didn't know. But then maybe I'm helping you with social media, right? Or I'm doing something that maybe you aren't so familiar with. And you're able to learn, and we're able to take that from each other. And it doesn't have to be so transactional. It can be supportive in both ways. So I've experienced that firsthand with you, and you're Gen X, I'm Gen Z. And I think this too, we'll talk more about it, but in the workplace, like that can be that same kind of relationship between Gen Z and their managers and different generations. But yeah, some of the trends currently in the workplace, we are in very interesting times. Again, I want to mention I am one of the older Gen Z, and I'll just go through real quick. That way everyone knows that's here. Baby boomers, they're 1946 to 1964. Gen X is 1965 to 1980. Millennials are 1981 to 1996. And Gen Z is 1997 to 2012. So I want you to think for a moment with me. I was born in 1998. Which means that I graduated in 2020. So part of my senior year of college was very disrupted. Think about the pandemic. Think about everything that we were experiencing during that time as as Gen Z the generation that's finally coming into the workforce has been disrupted as they've been in this space. So we're lacking a lot of social skills. We're lacking that connection from the world, right? We've been isolated, and Gen Z is actually the loneliest generation. And so we've got multiple aspects going on where maybe there's some social skills that haven't been quite developed, but also we've spent time alone. And so looking at these different aspects are really important, and knowing that Gen Z's already experienced flexibility, right? They've been at home, they've been remote. So we're seeing flexibility, we're seeing well-being. They really prioritize their well-being and actually prefer to have a manager that is also working on their own personal development. And number three, they want meaningful experiences. So flexibility, we've got well-being and meaningful experiences, which really means that they're looking for work that's going to make the world a better place. We've had so much time to think, and we've had so much time to focus on, our own needs and what it is, and probably one of the most vocal generations when it comes to their own well-being needs. We're seeing those three trends coming in really hot and really focusing on these aspects. So Ashley, that is to answer on what Gen Z is really prioritizing and what they want in the workplace right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. As we're thinking about this, and I'm like literally kind of putting myself into thinking about being a mom of my kids, right? And I'm like, wow, yeah, my son like literally was, navigating IB, the IB program, as during the pandemic in high school, and it was the switch to virtual learning was so difficult for him that he wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
And it really hurt his chances at moving through that program. It affected his ability to get the Florida Bright Future Scholarship because he had to leave IB. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like all of these things that people impact, it's actually, yes, it's difficult that he had to go through that, but it actually in some ways made him so much stronger that he realized he had to figure out how to be resilient, change his approach. And then me as a mom, I have to say, I'm like, up in arms about this concept of like, oh my God, how is my son going to navigate this process? But also then I'm thinking, well, if he doesn't go through any challenges, then how is he going to be prepared for what's really hard that's going to come down the pike?
Yeah.
So I want to bring you in, Vicky, here on this conversation, because we're obviously talking about the younger generations and how they're impacting, how some of these things that we're navigating in the world are impacting them. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, I work a lot with college students, and I volunteer for a program called Braven, where we go in and we take them through the semester with the intention of them getting strong first career-oriented jobs out of college. And one of the things that we teach them or that we try to impart to them, is that failure is an opportunity for growth. And by by maintaining that growth mindset and learning to pivot, learning to see what else, developing those critical thinking skills that are necessary to say, okay, this didn't quite work out, but it's okay. I think it gives them a sense of comfort in knowing that they're going to be fine and they're not going to be afraid to try new things. The other thing that we do is we hold a panel showing them that your life's journey isn't always going to be tied to that college major. You're going to go through a lot of different areas, a lot of different jobs when you wind up, being a senior citizen, and you're going to learn something along the way, and just to embrace it. And I think that helps a lot, sort of alleviate some of that fear and angst about, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all of the things that people are navigating in this space have a huge impact on all of our differences. One of the things that I've been obviously really fortunate in my journey to navigate through gender, obviously, but some of the other differences as well for me that I've kind of had to transition through, from religion to my social economic class, from battling homelessness to being in a different financial position to back again to back again. It's like it's navigating a lot of these differences, but one of the constants that change every second is our age, and the way that I've been perceived in the workplace um, now versus 10 years ago is very different, from what I've noticed. And I think about, Keely, you were talking about something in our prep call, which was, hey, um, you know, working in the corporate sector, it can be very different for people. It's not for everyone. Entrepreneurship's not for everyone. Corporate sector might not be for everyone, but it's important that we know and we understand the differences that exist. Can you talk for a little bit kind of about what we were chatting earlier about, right? About this workplace environments and kind of navigating them, and how your age can impact that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, it goes back to what these different generations are wanting and needing, and these experiences that we've grown up in and what it showed us. So, for example, for me, I was offered a job as a manager out of college, and I had been working with that company prior, and I had seen that my manager wasn't taking care of themselves. I was already on the road. I was already so stressed, burnt out, to the point where my nose was bleeding, my eyes were bloodshot, I could barely get out of bed. And I was thinking to myself, how could I take this job? I don't want to be like my manager. I don't want to do the same thing. And then also, how can I be a manager if I don't even have the tools and resources to take care of myself? And that was a real defining moment for me, where I was disconnected from my manager. I was in this toxic workplace environment that was already, perpetuating a lot of these different symptoms that I was experiencing. And I walked away and I picked up 3 odd jobs to make ends meet while I figured out what I was going to do next. And there's an interesting stat I want to share with everyone. 50% of Gen Z is actually thinking about being entrepreneurs. They're thinking about starting their own thing, which means, if companies don't look at how to adapt and how to change, because times are different. We can go online, we can make a TikTok for $1,000 in 30 seconds, right? We can do different things to generate revenue in our lives. And I saw that opportunity, and I wanted to, as I went on my own journey of my own well-being and learning how to take care of myself, I became a somatic therapist, which is mind body connection, and really supporting thousands of individuals, reaching thousands, over 200,000 online through my social media platform, and supporting them all around the world. And when I was working with them, I saw a very similar pattern of what I was experiencing. I was saying they were in corporate spaces, they were working 9 to 5s, and they were saying, my personal life's getting better, but I'm still struggling at work. And that's really when we knew we had to take FeelSwell experiences and start working with what their problem was. They were disengaged from their managers. They were in these toxic workplaces, and 50% of people leave because of their managers, and that was me. Right? I left because I wanted to start my own, but I left really because that moment where I didn't connect with my manager was the reason I'm not there. If I had someone that were to come alongside me, because not everyone's meant to be an entrepreneur, if I had someone that were to come alongside me and really support me and give me the tools and resources and say, this is how you take care of yourself while you succeed at what you're trying to do, I'd still be there. There's no doubt in my mind. And it's costing, these companies, 225,000 per person every single time they lose somebody when they leave because of their manager. So it's a high cost. There's this a major problem, and that's really what we go in and do, is work with these managers to give them the emotional intelligence tools, but also blend the different generations. There's diverse teams. We have different needs, and it's learning how to connect with them. So my experience of going down that path and seeing that is really why we do the work that we do today, because it's powerful. It's powerful to have these kinds of conversations, and especially blending a multi-generational workforce. There's 5 generations in the workforce right now. You can't not think that there's different styles of communication, there's different ways that we do things, and sometimes there's not just one way, right? It's blending all of it together and taking perspectives. Ashley, we talked about in the beginning, and I'll just add this, and Vicky, I've had a similar experience with you, the mentorship aspect. Really what we're doing
Yes.
is we're looking at managers, right? And we're looking, how do they support each other? Just as Ashley, you were supporting me, and then I was able to support you because of age, right? It doesn't matter. Age, we all have something to offer. Vicky, same thing, right? I've been
Right.
able to learn from you. You've been able to come to a leadership camp where I've reached, hundreds of people all around the world, and we've been able to put something on in person. And you were a counselor at the leadership camp. So it's the same thing. We're taking bits and pieces, and we're blending generations and getting to support each other regardless of age. And I think at the end of
Yeah.
the day, what Gen Z wants, everyone wants, they just may be a little more vocal.
Yeah. If I could add to that, Keely, so you provide the mind-body connection for managers in the workplace, and I provide the skills and the tools so that they can take care of themselves while also taking care of their people through effective skills and communication. And you're right, it does transcend generations. Just because we are all of different generations.
Uh-oh, we lost Vicky.
We're from a different generation, and sometimes the internet is different depending on generations as well.
There
We
you
got you
are.
back,
You're
Vicky.
back, Vicky.
Yeah, old people and technology.
You were
That's
about to
all I'm
land that
gonna
plane.
say. It's
You were
it's
coming in to land that plane.
So I apologize, for some reason my internet doesn't want to work today. But what I was saying is this, with the work that the three of us do, we really are creating a respectful workplace. And what I tell my students is, I want you to get up in the morning, and I don't want you to say I have to go to work. I want you to say I get to go to work, right? Because it can be enjoyable, but it takes work. And with the 3 generations that we represent here today, we have a way of bringing people together and doing that. But you've got to want to do it. We can't just discount each other.
I love it. One of the things that I've noticed, obviously kind of pivoting back a little bit to my empowerment research, we polled 1,000 people around the world across all the differences, and we started asking them, what do they do to drive empowerment for people? And of course, that's how we came up with our empowerment algorithm ranking of these actions that people do for each of the differences. And so I mentioned mentor as the top one for age empowerment, but the second one, which we've kind of already talked a lot about, is educate. And educate as an empowering action, obviously, is your opportunity to learn and grow as a human. It's your opportunity to learn something new. It's your opportunity to educate someone else, something that can be impactful for them along their journey. I think about education as the it's one of those things that can transcend all the differences, right, that we have as a human.
Yes.
And as you're navigating down this pathway of realizing whether or not you're going to make educate an empowering action, you have to know how information that you're learning or you're sharing with others is emotionally impacting them. And then what are the actual numeric values tied to this education? So how many hours, how many credit hours are you taking? How much time have you set aside for helping people learn and grow through your information that you have? I think learning about the age differences across the generations, I think about my grandparents, who are part of the greatest generation, and I learned so much from them. And And I learned so much from my grandfather who served in World War II, and seeing how he operated, and growing up and learning from his mannerisms and the way that he communicated with others. These are things that I then took into the workplace and then started sharing, and principles that I learned from him, and then relationship building that I learned from my grandmother and things like that. I mean, like, we have to be very strategic about how we move about our age empowerment, and how we soak up the information and learn about what we experience and how we build relationships with people who are different. This is, to me, is one of the biggest ways that we can actually drive empowerment through age. So obviously we have mentor and we have educate. I'm going to say the last one when we get near the end. If you are watching our live stream and you have a question for any one of our experts, this would be a really amazing time for you to leave a comment in the chat. If you're just enjoying the stream, or you're fans of one of us, leave a comment in the chat so we know you're watching, so we know you're enjoying our live session. And so educate obviously is a big thing. And I know that Keely, you just talked a little bit about leaving school and going into the workplace. But Vicky, can you talk a little bit about how education it impacts us? And I know you were kind of teeing this up a little bit earlier too, I think. Are you there, Vicky?
I am, and what I'm getting is learning to be flexible with this too. What I'm getting is every other word. So if you could hopefully repeat the question.
Yes.
I'm happy.
Yeah. So we were talking about educate, and you kind of had touched a little bit about the importance on this to transcend all of the differences, and I was just kind of coming to you to get your point of view on this topic.
Yeah, for me, education is key, because also, my generation, you went to college, you got the job. It's also the beginning of the civil rights movement. It was harder for people of color and for women to do this. So education is always number one with me. And what I've had to learn is that is not necessarily the focus with Gen Z, Gen X. So I have had to learn to put education in a place where I'm not just trying to beat into people's heads, you've got to go to school, you've got to go to school. And that's been a learning curve for me. It's education can be found wherever you are. And one of the nice things about it is, with my students, every semester I learn as much from them as they learn from me. And it's a two-way street, and it's not all about following the curriculum. So it takes a mind shift for me, and I think for others of my generation. We don't know it all. We shouldn't pretend that we know it all, and we should be open to learning from everybody around us. And that's hard to do, but once you make that switch, things, relationships get better, information flows better, and it becomes easier to work with people.
When we think about making things easier to work for people, I think that this also is a good pivot to Keely. And Keely, can you talk a little bit about your model, right? Because you have a whole process, right, that you've been building to help make things easier, right, across the differences of age, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Vicky, just what you were saying, like, I feel like that's more of what we need. Your mindset towards that is, opening up and saying, hey, there are different ways to learn. And it's the same thing that we do in our processes, right? We are researching, we're doing consulting, and then we're implementing these different ways based off what we've learned. So for example, one of the things that we do a little differently as the Gen Z and millennial run company is we do field research. We look at people as individuals and as our friends, and we see that oftentimes they're more likely to share with us because they trust us. They know us, they follow us, they
Yes.
want to share the real insight of what it is that they need. And then when we're consulting with these different organizations, we're really looking at strategy. We're looking at the ways that they can shift and change to retain these employees, right? Because they may have them, they may have signed on and said, yeah, we'll be there. But what are the different things that need to be in place, especially regarding education and mentorship? Because Gen Z, they are craving learning opportunities. They're craving meaningful experiences. And in three, when we're implementing, we're really looking at the different ways that we implement, and it's not just the traditional ways, right? Sometimes what we see in the workplace is, hey, everyone, it's Friday. We're going to have a pizza party and go to the escape room. And we're like, no, because we don't even like talk. So why would we do that? But really, what are the different points of connection that we can implement that are meaningful and intentional? And if you're going to ask people to come into the office, what's the intention? Can we share that beforehand? Is there a new style of communication that's way more transparent? Even when people are getting hired on, especially with layoffs, can they ask the question, hey, can you give me some insight to what will be happening with layoffs? Right? We want to know. There was actually a TikTok that I just watched because now Gen Z records their layoffs and they post them online for everyone to see. And there was an HR team laying off this Gen Z employee in tech, and they were sharing, this Gen Z employee was speaking up for themselves. They were saying, I've never met you before. Why isn't my manager laying me off? I've had all this feedback from different aspects of what I'm doing. And, I was on a 3-month ramp, and now we've had 2 holidays. They were just really like in this conversation from a perspective of, I want transparency. And that's what Gen Z really wants. So, being able to like have these transparent conversations in the workplace, being able to have minds be open and really look at the different experiences that people have and why they want transparency and why they want to experience this. I mean, think about what we've just experienced. 2 years of isolation, 2 years of not expecting any of that. We're on edge. We don't know what could happen. We're not going to put all of our eggs in one basket. And so managers need to be flexible, and we incorporate that into our strategy and creating, new tools to diversify their team needs, because there's not a one size fits all. And again, going back to that field research, we are hearing the real answers of what people want. We are getting the peer-to-peer insider scoop of what Gen Z wants in the workplace. And I experienced it firsthand. I would still be there if some of these things were in place. So really our mission is creating a better workplace for the future.
I love it. Creating a better workplace. I know that Vicky, you have a lot of thoughts on creating a better workplace. Can you also take the stage here and talk a little bit about the interpersonal skills trainings that you do for your clients and how that can actually probably benefit our age empowerment as well?
Yeah, I tell people that personally I have 3 rules for good management. The first one is to know yourself. And I don't think we do enough work in figuring out how we react to things, how we think about things. A lot of this is emotional intelligence, a lot of this is self-introspection. But it is, if I don't know me, how can I work with you, right? The second rule is to know others. If I don't know anything about you, if I don't know anything about your generation, Keely or Ashley, if I don't know, and I don't have to get down in the weeds. I don't need to know what you have for breakfast every day, but I have to care about you as a person, right? And if I can do that, then we can work on ways to communicate with each other. One of the things that I love to do is a new manager integration. I get the team separately and I say, what do you want from your manager? I get the manager separately and I say, what do you want from your team? And then we get together to work on those things so that there are expectations from each other, including ways we're going to communicate. What do we do when we have a conflict? How do we feel when we have a conflict? Are we enraged and we need to take a time out? Or are we able to say, let's talk about that a little bit and de-escalate? So for me, it's a very personal, let's get in and find out what skills we need to be able to communicate with each other, to be able to trust each other, because without trust, we are not going to succeed, and to be able to respect each other. And I honestly believe that if we can do those things, a lot of these problems that we see in the workplace and between generations will be able to be worked out.
Yeah. And it's the interpersonal skills to be able to be self-aware enough to understand, the things that I'm talking about with them around really, understanding Gen Z's short attention span, right? These different topics and actual problems that they may be facing, but they need the skills in order to understand them. So it makes a lot of sense. And I love that each of us have this perspective, and Ashley, you have this ability to measure it and look at empowerment, and Vicky, your frameworks and tools to build the skills and the different generations of knowledge, and us going in and really knowing Gen Z well and knowing how they're coming in and they're the future of work, where we're headed. And how do we combine all of that together? That's what's really powerful here. And I'm so glad we're all connected, because I know as we continue to connect and develop and grow with organizations, we all need each other. We need our resources to come together. And that's the same thing that's happening here that we just talked about today. We're using all of our age differences, all of our different experiences, all of our knowledge to educate each other, to mentor each other, and use our resources to really support and make the world a better place. So this whole entire workshop webinar, it's happening live in action. This is the real life application of what it can look like to really support every generation and to really be open-minded to see that there can be change and we can work together. Imagine if you both were my manager, I would still be there. Okay.
Yeah. So if I can, and it's not easy. It's not easy. I encountered a personal situation about a month ago where I was absolutely enraged. And it's not to say that we're devoid of these feelings. And I was so angry. But what it took was for me to step back and go, I'm really angry about this in the middle of my emotion. I need to go take a walk, and I just need to vent. I need to call somebody that's not a player and just vent. And by the end of it, I started laughing. It's like, you know what? I teach emotional intelligence, and I just got snake bit myself. Oh, now I know how to approach the situation. It was funny. It was really funny. I woke up laughing the next morning going, I just got hijacked by my own brain. This is what I need to do. It's being able to recognize those things in ourselves that keep us out of trouble.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was just thinking about that. The snake coming to get us.
It's true. I mean, and it's something that we're working on all the time. There's no end in sight. We'll be doing this for the rest of our lives. But if you have a team and people around you that support that, and that's truly, as we go back to the trends for a second, what Gen Z wants. They want managers. They want people in their lives that are also working on themselves. It feels genuinely to me, just speaking from my own experience, I feel a lot safer psychologically and emotionally when I am with people that also know that they're taking care of themselves, that they can handle and control their own emotions, because I know that someone's not going to just burst out, right? And I'm in an environment where I can share my opinion and I can get feedback, and I know it's coming from a good place. So it really matters.
So we've had some comments in the chat, and I want to give some highlights here. We have Well, someone on Facebook said great message, inspiring guidance. I wonder if we could pick like the age demographic of the platform.
We can.
Yeah, we can. And then somebody else on Facebook said, I have embraced empowerment and been able to educate and influence other generations, which is really exciting. I was thinking that, as I've been kind of sharing the top empowering actions for age empowerment, it seems like a good pivot to talk about the last of the three top empowering actions for age empowerment, which of course, from my research, the number 3 most empowering action for age empowerment is influence. And influence in our learning framework is the empowering action that connects to branding and marketing yourself differently. And this actually, influence has the highest rating of all the empowering actions. For that empowering action, the highest rating of empowerment is towards age. So this one actually is a learning framework that helps people really position themselves differently. Positions obviously also through resources that you create, like a LinkedIn or your resume, right? How you position yourself and position your age is incredibly important for your empowerment. Sometimes we see things as a disadvantage around our age, or an advantage, and then we come in sometimes too confident or not confident enough. So really how we influence others, which was mentioned in the comments. That's why I really thought this was a good connection point to talk about influence. And so I definitely recommend that as one of the top empowering actions for age empowerment, to connect with our learning framework. But Keely, you talked about something that is really powerful in nature for empowerment, and how it impacts all the differences that we have as a human. When you were just touching, on this concept of, obviously as we're making a difference, right? You mentioned how like my company measures empowerment of people. So obviously we do a survey, right? And for those that don't understand, yes, obviously a survey is one of those things where you're like hoping you get like 8% of the respondents to respond to the survey, right? Well, we actually average more than 90% response rate on our survey because we do it live and in the moment. And so live and in the moment obviously results in a higher response rate, a better engagement level, because engagement is what can make a difference for people across the generations, obviously. But we're benchmarking this empowerment score. And obviously we're asking about age empowerment in the survey, but we're also asking the other 9 dimensions of differences, because what we'll do for our clients is we'll actually do an intersectionality comparative analysis report. The intersectionality of all of the other 9 differences versus age empowerment, we can actually showcase how higher or lower the empowering differences are for our clients, which is incredibly powerful and useful data. But we do it in an engagement style, so that way people don't feel burdened to have to take another survey. So real world applications is my question. I finally got there. It took me a little bit. Thanks for my patience. Thanks for the patience. Keely, what are you thinking about real world applications? These are my real world applications for how I help. What are you doing in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you an example of a company that we just worked with. We actually worked with their entire company, and we were looking at how do we increase accountability and ownership, especially when it comes to their younger generations. So, for example, one of the things that we looked at was because there's a disconnect, right? When there's accountability and ownership, people aren't feeling connected to company values. They may not even identify, why it's important enough to take accountability. We take accountability when we feel empowered, right? When we feel like we know why we're doing what we're doing, we know how we can show up, and we know, what it will lead to. And so when they were struggling with accountability and ownership in their younger generations, what we did was a live, real application of having everyone together and breaking them out with teams they don't usually work with. And one of the things that we did was we went into sharing personal and getting a little bit deeper outside of work for a minute. So we took images on a screen, and every single person chose an image, and they chose something that was meaningful to them, and they shared it with somebody. And then that person had to go share it with the next person, and then the next person, and the next person. And we were working on active listening and really opening up, which was going to lead into the next thing that we were doing, which was building a story together as a team. And so when you take, hey, I understand who this person is, and I know them on a deeper level, we take the values of the company, right, and we build that into the story part of how they were building a story together. That's when things started to merge, because people saw, I want to work with these people. I know them a little bit deeper now. I understand what it is that they need. And at the end, everyone felt more connected to why they were doing what they were doing, and also taking ownership by helping others, supporting them if they weren't sure on the directions or the instructions. And they were able to have this new kind of team experience where I had people come up to me and go, our warehouse team, they've never talked like this before. They've never spent time laughing and chatting outside of, they always have a serious face. They're never really connecting, all different kinds across different generations. And they were chatting it up downstairs, right? So we saw the real live application of this problem of accountability and ownership. How do we blend our own personal aspects of who we are, our company values, and then bring it together where we can actually all work together? So we are seeing it live in action, but really FeelSwell experiences, we don't just do things the traditional way. It's all about the experience. And I'm sure you both can attest to that from what you've seen, the work that we've done at FeelSwell.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it live.
On a helicopter pad.
Yes, on a helicopter pad. Oh my gosh. Never going to be able to live that down.
The coolest experience.
That was the coolest experience.
And I
know
think that's
Vicky
what
was,
it is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's figuring out what the problem is. And it can be so textbook to look at accountability, ownership. What does that mean? But like, how do you actually experience it in real life? And that's what we love doing. We love being in person with companies. We love showing up and really being hands-on, especially as teams are more remote. We need these intentional moments together.
Yeah. I know we got some comments on Instagram, which was kind of cool. For some reason, they don't pop into the applet here, so I can't show, but it's some hearts and stuff. So that was cool. I know Vicky was having a little bit of some technical difficulties, but I think she's going to do a lolly. What do you have any questions for me on any of the stuff? I know that we've been running through your list of questions.
I love it. No, actually, I do have a question for you, because I think this will be powerful for others to know. And Vicky, you can answer too. But as we're, FeelSwell talks a lot about Gen Z, right? But I feel like a lot of what we're talking about, every generation can benefit. What are some of the benefits you feel, maybe as a Gen X, just so people can get insight specifically to what this could look like in their companies for different generations? What are the benefits you feel like you could experience, Ashley, as someone that's Gen X, to learn from Gen Z, to have this insight, to have this impact? And Vicky, what are some of the insights that you feel like you could learn, just so people can understand how different ages and different generations can learn from each other in a real life application?
For me, the real life application is, in relation to Gen Z, I want to learn the best way to communicate with them. The best platform, the best, here's a real world story, because I know that you love real world stories. I was having the hardest time nailing down, to at least be able to have a phone call with my boys, right? Because they're like, always on the go, right? Doing their thing, doing school, doing work. And it's like, I hardly get to see them. And, and I'm like, yeah, I'm, like, like I miss them so much and whatnot. And so anyways, we just came with this conversation and they were like, well, if you had an iPhone, we would probably talk to you more. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, we can literally talk on WhatsApp. We can video chat on WhatsApp. And they were like, no, not happening.
Yeah, you need blue messages. That's it.
And apparently I needed blue messages to be able to reach my children, and I needed FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten to have so many more video chats with them, probably more than I would have if they were living in my house still. Or I mean, it's cool, and I get the FaceTime, it pops up, and then I, if I'm at an event, I go and walk over down the hallway, and I have a video chat with one of my kiddos, and it's the greatest thing ever. And I would never have that if number one, I didn't destroy my phone on a roller coaster. That's the point where I wasn't going to retrieve anything from it. And then B, number two, if I didn't destroy my other phone on the voyage of empowerment, year one. But both times I found myself getting an iPhone at that point. So
no, but that's the thing. You shared that you were open to have a conversation, to know what it is that they needed, and you met them there, right? They're wanting to communicate with you, and you're saying, what is the best way? And that's what we're teaching. There are different styles. There's different preferences. To me, when I hear you say we could talk on WhatsApp, I'm like, that's a barrier. Like, I don't go on WhatsApp. Like, that's a whole nother app that you have to click and go on. If you just FaceTime me, right? That's how most calls are anyway today, is a FaceTime. Like, it just looks a little different. So, Vicky, what are some of the real life applications of, how you could benefit learning from Gen Z, or just even things that you've experienced?
I'm a real big proponent of listening and listening between the lines. And I think the big thing for me is not assuming that I know it all just because I have decades of experience. And so inviting people into the conversation and saying, again, that I'm willing to learn from you. But the other thing is asking, how do you want to get this information? What is best for you? Because I'm not used to this. I've gone through so many applications for connection: Discord, Slack, Zoom. It's like, all right, just tell me what you want. I have no idea how to use it, but I'll make an attempt and let's talk about it. Conversation is key. One of the things I had to get used to with my niece, who is, I think, Gen Z, maybe a millennial, was she told me point blank, do not call me. I will not answer my phone, even if it's sitting right in front of me. I'm like, I need to know what time we're going out for dinner. I want to text you and then wait for you to find your phone. Yeah. So, but I have learned now, do not call. And so I text, and I have to build in time to know that she's got 3 kids. She doesn't have her phone with her. So don't call unless it's an emergency. And getting used to what other generations want and what is normal for them and adapting to that is very hard. But also understanding that I'm in a learning curve to connect with them, but they are also in a learning curve to be able to connect with me. And again, listening between the lines. What are you really telling me? Because it's not often where someone's going to say, I'm not going to answer my phone. Don't call. You just don't hear anything. So it's again, it's trust, it's relationships, it's seeking understanding. And that can be, for me as an older person, that can be a hard learning curve, and having the patience with myself to just go, this isn't Burger King. You're not going to have it your way. Get over it and get with the program. And it's okay. It becomes a lot easier once you adopt that attitude.
Yeah.
Mm.
But you can rule though, apparently, right? Because at Burger King, that's like
Some
slow. You rule.
when I have to, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, when I have to, yes. But that's not too often anymore.
So I know that we only have like 5 minutes left. I mean, I can't believe that the conversation went by
Wow.
so quickly. I know, right? Like an hour with between three best friends across different mediums and platforms and continents. uh, it's super cool. I was just thinking, Keely, why don't you give us some closing thoughts and best ways that people can keep in touch with you and what your takeaways are.
Yeah, absolutely. I took away so much from this conversation. For one, Ashley, Vicky, your insights, they continue to develop the work that I'm doing, because it's not just about Gen Z and how, the older generations can connect, but it's also about, what I'm doing on my personal platform and building in my personal brand is educating Gen Z and millennial on how to take care of themselves so that they also acknowledge and can connect with different generations. It's the same thing. We're all learning from each other consistently. So, as we do this work within companies, it's taking, different generations and really looking at who they are already and enhancing those different parts so that they can better teach it. Ashley, you talked about education, you talked about mentorship. Those are key aspects of enhancing that for us, so that we can continue to pass down the knowledge and information generation after generation. You can connect with us on FeelSwellExperiences.com. I know that Ashley will drop the link in the chat here. You can book a call with us, learn more about how we can support your organization, especially the ones that are looking to bring in Gen Z. They already have Gen Z working. They have millennials. They want to adapt the culture. They want the managers to have the tools and resources to really work and better connect with them so that they can retain, attract, and have them engaged in these environments, and see that when you invest in Gen Z, when you invest in the leadership training, you'll see the innovation is it's just untapped potential, because we think so differently, because we've had so many different experiences. So thank you, Ashley and Vicky, for your insights, for having this conversation. I'm so excited to connect and continue to, use each other as resources to bring each other in. And, you may see me in one company, but you also may see Ashley and Vicky, because they come with me sometimes to different ways. And, they are plugged into the work that we do as well. And it deeply matters.
And then Vicky, tell us, your, how people can get in touch with you and your quick takeaways. Are you out there? Uh-oh, we may have lost you. So, all right, Vicky. Well, if you want to get in touch with Vicky, obviously you can find her at VA-Brown-Consulting.com. That's the best way to get in contact with her and connect more with her platform to learn about the interpersonal skills trainings that she does and other platform and coaching. Very powerful partner to have across all of the age empowerment. And then I'm been super honored to be here with you all today. Obviously, if you're thinking about how best you can connect with helping to connect empowerment and measure empowerment for your teams, then you should definitely take the time to connect with me more on empowerment. We'll help you track your empowerment for your team across the differences. And obviously, we'll provide an employee engagement platform that is unique in nature. It only takes 90 seconds. So we incorporate that into all your live events, your team meetings, your leadership development programs. Those are the best ways that we try to partner to really drive empowerment for all of your teams and all of your people. So I know that there's a lot going on in the world, and I've been super thrilled to be joined by such amazing partners and friends today. But it's been a blast. Keely, you okay?
Yes. Can you see me? It's been a blast.
Thanks,
Vicky's
Ashley.
back.
This has been great in spite of the technical difficulties.
Well, we got
very
you.
Enjoyable.
What was your closing thought?
My closing thoughts are basically, like I said, this has been wonderful. Thank you for having me. And I'd like to point out one of the things that we are able to do here at VA Brown Consulting. We do customized workshops for your teams. I mentioned interpersonal, the new manager integration. We do one-on-one coaching. We find out what your pain points are, and we go from there. Nothing's canned. Nothing is automatic. We talk, we listen. So please feel free to contact us, even if you just have questions and you want to know a little bit more about what we do. It's been a pleasure, and usually the technology works. So, but you can also call me. I'm old. Call me.
Call me maybe, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But no, thank you both so much. This has been a blast.
Thank you.
Yes, it has. Thank you, Ashley.
All right. Thank you. And we'll see you next time as we bring more empowering differences and empowerment of all the differences through our different live events that we do. And it's been awesome. So thank you both.